Hey, everybody, welcome back to another episode of the Underrated Podcast. We are the Undercast Company. My name is Alan, and as per usual, my lovely, awesome hosts, Ariel Ortiz
Hello.
and Derek McDuff.
Hey, how's it going?
And today we're going to be talking about one of my favorites. It's a horror movie, which I felt was very underrated at the time. I mean, it did really well at the time. It's Drag Me to Hell, directed by Sam Rami, written by Sam Raimi and his brother Ivan Raimi, and starring Alison Lohman, Justin Long, and Lorna Raver. Pretty much what this movie's about. It's about this loan officer who is going to be up for a promotion, and what she wants is she wants to show that her superiors that she can do it, that she can be better at her job, and that she has the chops to be an assistant manager. And the gypsy woman comes in asking for a loan, a third loan for her house, and unfortunately, she tries to make the big decision and says, "I'm sorry, I can't help you out." And in doing so, the gypsy woman gets pretty upset about it, and she unleashes a curse on Alison Lohman's character, which kind of starts the whole plot of what's going on as her trying to find her way not to get dragged down a hill. And so, yeah, pretty much that's the whole story. It's pretty fast, a pretty fast paced kind of film. It's just like about an hour and a half, so that's one of the beauties of it that I like. It's a very straightforward horror film, and it did really well at the box office when it came out. I think its budget was $30 million. It got a lot of rave reviews. It got a 92% Rotten Tomatoes. And I know what you guys would think. You're thinking, well, this movie sounds great. Everything's going well for it. It was kind of a lower budget at the time. I think it only made 90 million, but it's still a success. But what I felt is that even though it's such a big film, one of my biggest things that I find odd is that it did so well at the time, and then it just kind of viewed off into obscurity. Like nobody really knows about it. Nobody really talks about it, especially in the horror community, especially nowadays with all these A24 horror films with Hereditary and Midsummer and Hush and all these movies that kind of get brought up all the time. Mandy, where I'm kind of like, where's Drag Me to Hell? You know,
Yeah.
I thought it was great, just like Cabin in the Woods. But anyways, I want to hear what you guys thought. Whoever wants to go first, go right ahead.
Yeah, I find that's a very interesting point that like cuz when I started watching I checked the IMDb ratings and the Rotten Tomatoes and I saw like did Alan make a mistake cuz like or maybe it's like like a under the radar kind of thing but I'm like no, I've heard of it before. But I do actually like really agree with that yeah, like I could see like it hasn't while it's deserving of being added to that echelon of like talked about movies like the cornerstones movies essentially of like or the you when you name off horror movies like you name off like classics and
All
stuff
that.
like
Yeah, you
Shining
named
and all
classic.
that. Yeah, the classics. So yeah, in that regard then yeah, I could definitely see this as being in that under the radar or not well entered in the, under the radar
It's almost
but yeah like
like kind of
underappreciated I
like a
guess.
cult film almost.
Yeah no but getting to the film itself it definitely is a Sam Raimi horror movie. Like after it I was like what does this remind me of, oh like Evil Dead 2. I'm like, oh, Sam Raimi. Okay, yeah,
Hmm.
like definitely that is not really like it is gory, but it's like a weird like it just happens kind of gory, like especially in this movie with like the multiple times like she's either like punched or like gets a hand thrown into her mouth or has like something
It's
like
super
fall
gross.
into her mouth or has swallow something so much stuff with mouth like with her mouth like I don't know Sam Raimi
There's some things
but
that I actually heard about before I saw this movie that I might get into a little bit with all the mouth stuff, but I'll let you go on.
yeah but it's definitely that kind of vibe of a horror movie, not really scary. There's a few jumps like in the classic sense of like things of there's a few jump scares. There's a few kind of like mystical kind of things that, but for the most part, it's a more of like the adventure side of horror movies, which I
It's more
enjoyed.
of like a
I
horror
kind of,
comedy, honestly.
oh
Yeah.
yeah, definitely a horror comedy. Yeah, like it, but it's like I don't want to say like it's not slaps. It's like horror. These Sam Raimi has kind of like created this kind of like not a slapstick horror comic kind of comedy, but like a in the same vein or like cut from the same cloth kind of thing where it very much is um
Like Evil
like
Dead 2 and
oddity.
like Army of Darkness and stuff.
Yeah, it's like an odd comedy, like or an odd horror for that reason. It's just like because it just feels especially with the anvil. It's like kind of feels that like in that
Yeah,
same
who has
vein
an
of
anvil?
slapstick. Yeah, of slapstick
Some
horror
Wile E.
comedy.
Coyote shit.
I
Like,
think that was,
It
yeah.
might as well have said Acme on it.
Yeah, yeah,
Like just
definitely.
like Acme
I was like,
Incorporated or whatever.
there was multiple times when I was like, this is gonna be a dream. This is just too Looney Tunes to be real. And then it would just be like kept going and going. I'm like, oh no, I guess this is actually happening in the movie. Like this is not gonna be some weird like I kept expecting her to like wake up and be like, oh nope, that last scene didn't actually happen. We pulled a sneaky on you like they do so often in horror movies, but they never did. They just kept going and going and going.
And definitely for the main character, like I kind of felt for her. I like she's just like you could see like and it does a really good job of this of seeing like she's tried her best to be the good person. Like she is a good person at her heart, and it's just essentially everybody telling in her hearing like telling her like you can't be that, you can't make it, or you can't be successful if you're the person that you are. So and especially at the beginning with her introduction of her like going through like linguists kind of like tapes and stuff to try and to have her lose her southern accent and stuff like that. And it's like kind of like it's sad to see, yeah, like this woman having to transform herself into like the thing that she doesn't want to be, and because of that, that's what causes this curse to happen. And by the sounds of especially with the opening of it kind of like being a flashback, by the sounds of it, gypsies are just assholes kind of thing. Like they are looking to curse people.
That's what I was gonna say. Like, I kind of want to be like, this movie's kind of racist against Gypsy. Like, well, I just say
Gypsies,
Romani because like Gypsy isn't really exactly a great term. Like, a lot of people
Romani.
don't like that term. But I'm not gonna like chastise anybody, but like, yeah, it's real. Romani, it's like pretty racist the way they portray like that kind of people.
Yeah, like Romanis are okay. They're but there are elements of like shadiness to them.
Well, I don't know. I don't want to. Wait, hold on.
Yeah,
don't throw any ethnic group under the bus here.
It's like a stereotype
of group is shady. Like, come on. I mean, I gotta push back against that a little bit.
They're shady in the way like that they sneak
That's
into
the way they get portrayed.
My sister accidentally. I told her not to, but she's accidentally.
Okay, but you're saying okay, but you can't like blame an entire group of people because something happened.
Oh, no.
Like that's what I'm saying. That's the way they get portrayed, and that's why.
It's a stereotype. It's like saying like us Mexicans like beans, which kind of thing of like or like or we're drunks or whatever. I don't know.
I mean, that's the thing. That's like I think there is a lot of negative stereotypes that get portrayed in this movie, and I don't think that they're accurate.
No, I'm not saying that they're accurate. I'm just saying
I know what Ariel's trying to get at. It's kind of like how like in the Evil Dead, which is apparently another underrated movie nobody's ever heard of. Yeah, right. But in the Evil Dead, I think in the beginning, when like they find the Book of the Dead, the Necronomicon Ex Mortis, and they're just kind of like, oh, it's a Sumerian book, and like these people went out of their way and like rip people apart and use their skin for paper and to bind the book, like that kind of sense. Like when you watch old like Universal monster movies.
Yeah, but the difference is that Sumerians aren't around anymore.
Oh yeah. No, I completely understand. we're not trying to throw anybody under the bus. It's
Yeah.
just kind of like that, like in the beginning of the film, there's this scene, the cold open, where there's like that Mexican kid, which is kind of another stereotypical thing, but even then, it's
Mhm.
kind of like it is something that's heard of. Where like this Mexican family goes to like a bruja, essentially like a witch, to be like, hey, I need you to like exorcise my child. He fucked around with something he shouldn't have, and that's a big fucking thing. Like I've had that in my experience in life where I had like well, I'm going to tell a little scary story real fast for everybody, where my parents were like, hey, don't fuck around with like spiritual shit like that, don't mess around with it. And I
We
bought a
don't
Ouija
mess with.
board.
Yep, we don't do
Exactly.
that, Alan.
Exactly. We don't. No. Wait. I didn't mess with it. This is the scariest part. So like, I bought a Ouija board originally. What I was gonna do, it was like a fucking Hasbro like glow in the dark one. I was gonna use it as a decoration. I was gonna put it up on my wall because it glows in the dark, and hide the little glass thing that you move it with. Like I wanted to keep them separated, and I only opened it to look at it. That was it. And then I put it back. I told all my friends, hey, don't fuck around with it. Leave it alone. I hid that shit from everybody. And finally, my mom one time found it, and she got really upset about it. She's like, I fucking told you to hide that. Like, don't buy shit like that. Don't mess with shit like that. And that's like a big Mexican thing where they're like, you don't fuck around with the Ouija board. You don't fuck around with like summoning spirits, nothing like that. Just like how the kid did. And just to kind of end the story a little bit, I worked graveyard shift, and I got home from work one morning, and for some weird reason, I knew my mom was still upset about the Ouija board, so I went directly to the trash can in the backyard, and of course, I found the Ouija board right next to the trash can, and I told my mom, "Hey, what the fuck? Like, don't throw it away. Like, I paid $20 for it. Like, I want to use it as a decoration. I'm not playing with it." And she goes, "Oh my fucking god, dude! That is the third time I've had to put that fucking thing in the trash." And I go, "Wait, what do you mean third time?" And she goes, "Well, this morning I took it out of your room and I left it in the kitchen. And I went back into your room to put your clothes away. It was back in the fucking room on the bed." And then she's like, "Then I threw it outside onto a table and I left it there. I came back inside. The Ouija board was back on your bed." And then she's like, "This is the third time I've seen that Ouija board on your bed." And I was like, "I just got home from work." And she's like, "Exactly. Throw that fucking thing away." And I was like, "What the fuck?" Like, I was like, "So you're saying that the Ouija board has moved?" And she's like, "Yes, it has moved 3 times. And something possessed you." She's like, "How did you know I was throwing it out? How did you know I was throwing it out?" And I was like, "I just had a feeling. I just went outside and I knew you were gonna throw it out." And she's like, "Exactly. How the fuck do you think that happened?" The Ouija board called you. And it was the scariest fucking thing ever, especially because she was so scared and so shocked. And then finally, like, I think my dad was leaving for work because I just got, I was coming home from a night shift and he's going to his thing and he goes, "Just fucking throw it away, dude. Like, just throw it away. Don't fuck with it." But the whole moral of the story is that's where like the stereotypes kind of come, where like Mexicans don't fuck around with Ouija boards. And after that, I learned my lesson and I never fucked around with shit like that ever again.
Mhm.
And I think that's what Arrow's trying to get at, in the sense of like, like you watch like old movies, like Universal monster movies, they used to do shit like that too, where they're like, in Transylvania, there's vampires and like there's gypsies, and gypsies will put a curse on you because like that's what they do. But
I get
not in
that.
the
I get
sense,
that's what she's
not,
getting at.
I
But
like chocolate. I like chocolate.
but that's the
I
only way that like gypsies get portrayed in movies is as these
No,
old negative
watch
stereotypes.
chocolate. You
Okay,
got giant breath.
there's okay. There might be some
No,
exceptions, but
they're very beautiful people.
okay, yeah. But that's what I'm saying is that they're portrayed in this kind of like throwback way that is a throwback to kind of like old racist like things, like
Oh yeah. Well, I mean,
and
yeah,
I'm not,
I mean,
I've not, yeah, it is. I can in a 2021 lens. I'm like this. I'm not trying to say like it's like worthless and like if anybody who likes
yeah,
this
I
is like
totally
racist or
get
anything.
it. It
But
is a little backwards. Like even when I
it's
was watching it again, I was like, yeah, this is kind of backwards because you're very like, using a stereotype
hmm
to kind of like get the MacGuffin kind of going.
mhm.
But at the same time, it's just even then, I think like 2009, maybe some people were bothered by it, but at the same time, the people were just like, well, like I don't know what other possible way they could have used a curse. I mean,
And it could
he already did
you
the
could just
Necronomicon, and
you could just have a
think of it.
curse. It doesn't have to be like, oh, like I will get you. Oh, like I'm like they don't have to like. It could have just been like an old lady. It doesn't. They don't have to like specifically like make it like a racial thing. You know.
No, totally. And my little quick argument is like in Paranormal Activity 2. Um, and it's pretty hilarious. But I thought, but the thing is, I was like, yes, of course. Is that I can, Paranormal Activity 2 has like the same kind of thing. It's kind of like a prequel sequel to the first one. And there's a Mexican maid who my mom was. She was a maid way back in the day, and she wasn't like spiritual or anything like that. But in that movie, there's a whole thing where they're just like, oh my god, like she's blessing the house because all this haunted shit started going on. And then the dad fires her, and then they end up bringing her back because they're just like, who's the expert? An old Mexican maid who's spiritual. So I think that's kind of my kind of counter argument. I'm not trying to say like it's racist or anything, or like they're trying to push an agenda. I think they're just trying to get like
No, they're not pushing an agenda. I
something
think they're just
like,
playing into these stereotypes. And I think
yeah,
that the
they're definitely
difference
playing into the
is that
stereotype.
like that there it's the with like all the stuff you were just mentioning, those aren't like really negative stereotypes. It's not like you're saying when, the Mexican maid is coming through. Like those are stereotypes and like that's a whole thing too, but like it's
Mhm.
not like where it's like every time you see, it's not like a Mexican maid is this trope that comes in and is like this evil character, and that's the only way that Mexicans
Oh,
ever get
totally.
portrayed is like an evil character, which is basically the only way that gypsies get portrayed is kind of this evil mystical kind of figure. And
This is
I
the
think that's
first.
just something that needs to be
Yeah.
addressed.
Mhm.
Yeah, this is the first
Totally.
time that I've seen it like this, like like evil, a gypsy. Um,
Mhm.
but no, I do get what you're saying. Like definitely, like people are people. Um,
So why should it be? We should all
no, yeah.
it's long, so
No, I just
on.
wanted to address it.
Oh yeah, totally. Like,
Yeah,
I
yeah.
totally get it. I mean,
That funeral seemed hopping. I mean, I wouldn't mind it. Like, I mean, gypsies could, anybody, but gypsies in general could party, you know?
oh yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
they didn't
Watch,
get like some of the things wrong either. Like, have you guys
yeah.
ever heard of Go
Peaky
Bordello?
Blinders.
Or
They show,
Peaky
that's some
Blinders?
awesome, those are some awesome gypsies right there.
Mhm. Have you guys ever heard of a Go Bordello?
Nuh-uh.
Yeah, it's like yeah.
It's a gypsy like punk band, and
Yeah.
they have this song called "Start Wearing Purple," which anybody out there go listen to it right now. It's the funnest fucking gypsy punk song you'll ever hear. It's just so good, and like even the music video kind of is exactly how like that scene was in the funeral. People are partying, they're having a good time, they're just drinking it up. Like, yeah, there was a death or whatever, and but they're like, hey, we're gonna still have a good time because we love life and we care about it. And this person appreciated it, kind of thing. And they actually have another song called American Wedding, where it makes fun of like American weddings, where they're like, dude, this shit sucks ass. Like American weddings are fucking garbage. Like they need a party like gypsies, where we're like, we have a good time. Where's the vodka? Where's all the food? Where's like the DJ who's playing like the bangers kind of thing? Like we're here to party kind of thing. And I think this movie wasn't trying to specifically go at them like that, but there are some aspects where they were like, hey, this is probably something that they might relate to. I can't personally say. I'm not gonna jump into that, but I feel like maybe that was what they were trying to do, was trying to be like, hey, this is a possibility. This is what has been heard of that can happen, but they also portrayed them in a lighter light as well with the funeral as well, to be like, hey, they're not all bad. They're all here. They're all having a good time, just like with the Mexican in the beginning of the movie, where they're like, hey, we're gonna go see like a witch or a bruja to be like cure our kid. Because I actually was in that position as well, where growing up I had a lot of really bad nightmares, and my
Did
mom
you have a
took me.
demon?
I didn't have a demon, I don't know, but my mom actually took me to like a brujo, and
Really?
like he did the whole egg thing and all that, like
Yeah.
put the egg around my head and then he cracked it, and there's supposed to be black in it. There wasn't any black in it, but it was like this really scary fucking mirror that looked like it came out of hell itself. And like he was doing all this stuff around me, and he was just like, there, you should be cured of nightmares and all this stuff. And I was like, whoa, but that's like shit that like I think they were just trying to portray those types of things on film, because when I first saw this movie, I was like, oh my god, yeah, like that's something we do, like Mexicans do. But I think obviously the curse thing, like you said, the curse thing is kind of like in the negative light. But I think also maybe there people might be like, I can see where that comes from, kind of thing. Like, oh, where that aspect is. Just like with voodoo, like when they show voodoo in other movies, they're like, oh, somebody's like goes to New Orleans and they go to some voodoo guy, like a witch doctor, and they're like, I want you to curse this person, and da da da. Kind of in that aspect, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely like voodoo, all like very Hollywoodized and very much kind of drawing on like the lore of like old Hollywood and all this stuff. So I mean, I get where it's coming from. I just think that it's just something that I just wanted to bring up because it's a little bit like, okay, I don't know if this ages super well in this aspect, but and there are like you said, there's the stuff with Mexican. There's like some stuff where they bring in like spirituality with like Indian people and stuff like that, and they have the guy who's like clearly based on Ram Dass in there. So they did. I think that they brought in a lot of different aspects from a lot of different cultures. And then maybe they could have handled some better. Maybe they handled some worse. But definitely. It was very much like this is kind of a throwback to like kind of the old Hollywood horror, for the better or worse in that aspect.
Exactly. No, yeah, I'm not trying to like defeat your point or anything, or I'm just trying to say like I understand both of you guys' points of views. Where, I mean, like you said, it's an old stereotypical kind of Hollywood thing, and like
I just said that the old woman like was looking to curse.
But character-wise, that old woman is a bitch.
Yeah,
that's what I was. Horrible. That's what I was trying to say. Kind of thing. I was just trying to say that the old woman was looking to curse, and it sounds like from the Mexican kid that person was trying to curse too. Like they did not care.
Yeah, she is a bitch. I feel like that's what they're trying to get at as well. I think they were trying to be like, yo. Because when I was rewatching it, I was just like, "Who the fuck curses a kid?"
Right?
Like I feel like she just had this ability, and she was like, "I'm gonna fucking take full advantage of this shit." She's like, "I'm not gonna get it." Like it's just how Justin Long's character says. He's like, "Dude, she didn't pay her fucking bills. She didn't pay her loan twice, and she wants another loan." Like that's what happens in life. You have to realize like it's not fair. You can't just be like, "Fuck that! I'm gonna get everything for free," kind of thing. And like, but the thing is, she's just such a bitch where she's like, okay, you know what, dude? I'm gonna curse this motherfucker. I'm gonna stalk her in her car, hang out on the back of her car just to steal a button. Like, she's fucking crazy. It's like at the end of the day.
Yeah, and I mean, especially like she tries to like give her alternatives of like, I'm sorry for this, but can you hang out with can you stay with family? Can you stay with this? Like, I think like if she had not started bait, she probably would have like eventually gotten to the point of like, I will pay somewhere for you to go, kind of thing. Like this woman, that's the thing that kind of was so sad, is that this girl was so like innocent until like essentially you see life corrupting her, like, I mean, you just kind of like sadly see this kind of thing happen, and I wasn't expecting that. I thought I know how it ended starting when I was watching it, but I didn't know how exactly like it started. I thought that the main character was bitchy to her and stuff like that, and like so she kind of deserved it. So like watching it now, and it's kind of like she just like made a mistake it wasn't even like a mistake. It was just kind of like she felt like she had to do it. Maybe she could have and I hate that her bot. I just hate every I don't.
I hated everybody in this movie except for her
everybody
and Justin
around
Long.
her.
Legit.
So even Justin Long, no, he was okay, but I feel like for me, I feel like he should have shut his mom down like at the beginning when he was on the phone with her. Just hang up that fucking phone call, And it's just so sad.
Except I got mad at her when she killed a fucking cat. I was like, how dare you? I was like, oh, fuck that. No, I was like, I'm not on your side anymore.
Yeah, but then even then, it's like life, like it's a continuing showing of like just life, like corrupting this
Yeah.
girl, this and stuff like that, and just like, it
I don't think
just
it's even
sucks.
life corrupting. It's just like it's someone fending for their life, and I think that's one of my big favorite things about this movie is that it's not like necessarily pessimistic. It's just kind of like it can happen to you essentially, and I
Mhm.
feel like that's always been a thing where it's like she wasn't going out of her way to be like a horrible person. Like
Hmm.
she was just like it's literally the epitome of like wrong place, wrong time, and just
Yeah.
Mhm.
wrong decision. But she didn't know that.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know how I thought it was going to end is I was convinced that it was going to end with because she kills the cat, right? And then when they're doing all the stuff with like the spirit jumping into different bodies, I thought she was going to go real dark and she was going to have to kill Justin Long at the end. I thought
Uh.
that the
That
demon
would
was
be
going to
cool.
jump in Justin Long and she was going to kill like she was like, oh, just like she's like, well, I killed the cat, this poor defenseless thing. Justin Long is basically a human, poor, defenseless thing cat right now. I thought she was gonna like stab him with a machete or something, and I was really surprised that's the way it didn't go at the end.
Yeah. Yeah. So like, so for the ending,
I do love
is
the ending though. I
essentially,
will say
yeah.
that.
It's a fucking
Did they
amazing
like?
ending.
Did they essentially like the spirit got tricked itself because she should have died? It died like a couple of days before the end, right? Like,
She was supposed to die at midnight, but like, or they said that her like time is up at midnight,
yeah,
Mm-hmm.
and
and then she did the ritual with what she thought was the button by giving
Mm-hmm.
it to back to her. And is it just that like because she lost it, it was no longer hers, and then it wasn't hers until Justin Long gave it back to her?
no, I honestly think it's just how like the fortune teller said. He's like, there's no guarantee,
Mm-hmm.
and I just think like
Oh,
the demon, like what I really like is that
They're more
they're
guidelines than
just
rules.
yeah, like that too, but in the sense that they're like, dude, it's a fucking demon. Like that's what I
Yeah.
love about this movie is that this spirit or this demon just doesn't give a fuck. It's like, dude, you fucked up, you got cursed. I mean, she didn't fuck
Mm-hmm.
up like in a bad way, like she didn't was trying to harm her, but she's like, dude, you got fucked, and that's how it's gonna be. Like how like when I was telling my girlfriend we were rewatching it, I was like, one of the things I don't like nowadays with certain movies that deal with like hell or Faustian kind of deals that there's always this sense that like hell or the devil is going to be very like lenient on shit where like there's Sabrina, the chilling adventures of Sabrina,
that's
where it was a great show at the start, but like later on the Satan stuff and like hell just becomes very like they can
it's
walk
just
into
another room.
hell. It's
Yeah.
just another room. It's not a big deal. Like they're just kind of like there's a fucking like high school party going on at one point in one of in the fourth season where like Sabrina's just having a great time in hell and not giving a shit. And I'm like, how did you make hell like this?
There's
Because
a
yeah,
wedding in
yeah,
hell.
there's a wedding. Like
There's a nice wedding in hell.
when I think about hell, I think of like no mercy. Like it's just like in Dante's Inferno with like the fucking entrance where it says like abandon all hope ye who enter. Like, yeah, what the fuck do you expect? You're going to hell. There's nothing good there. Like
Yeah.
like there's just nothing like about hell that's gonna be like, oh, I'm gonna be able to like run away or have a break or something. Like there's even a comic book where Godzilla goes to hell and like fucking like even Godzilla himself sees like a giant towering fucking sign that's bigger than him that says that as well. And I'm like, yeah, how the fuck? Like, why do you think anybody's easily escapable other than Dante somehow? Like, well, he wasn't technically dead. Like, he was kind of more of just like a
It was like a
passenger.
vision that he saw. He wasn't actually there. It's a whole thing.
Yeah, like Virgil and Virgil the poet and all that shit.
Yeah.
But I'm just kind of like, what? Why does anybody think like you're gonna get away from hell? Like hell's
Mm-hmm.
just straight up like, dude, you're fucked, man. Like, what? You think I'm gonna be lenient? I honestly think that the demon was just watching like her do the whole thing in the graveyard and just kind of chilling, just knowing itself that it's like, you didn't get the button, but this is a pretty good show. I'm gonna wait till the morning. I'm just gonna
Then
grab
I'll
you by the
get you.
balls. Exactly. Like literally she like, hey, you know what? Alison Lohman's character, hey man, you got that assistant manager job. You got it. Justin Long, hey babe, I love you. I'm gonna propose to you, and we're gonna go on this great little like vacation over the weekend, and I'm gonna buy myself a nice blue coat. And I'm just like, dude, yeah, that demon's hanging back. Like, wait, just wait. Let me edge myself a little bit. This is gonna be fucking great. And then Justin Long's like, oh hey babe, here's your button, and then it's like, fuck. And that demon's like, showtime. Let's fucking go. I'm like, why do you, what makes you think like you're gonna escape? Maybe like if it panned out well, like she did give it back and all that stuff. There wasn't the mix up with the envelopes. But I'm like, it's hell, dude. What the fuck? Why do you expect it to be so like lenient? That's just my little thing. But sorry, go ahead.
No.
No,
I
yeah.
hijacked it.
Yeah, it's just like, why did there's so much like, I don't know if it's because he wouldn't have believed her and stuff like that with the button, but like still like one thing, you keep an iron grip on that shit, like you should have like tried to. Oh, well, she was going to try and give it to somebody, I guess, like right away. But I mean, like, you keep an iron grip on that. You don't let it leave your sight, especially when there's like papers on the floor. But then also, like, you tell Justin Long like what's going on, what you have to do. What maybe not the specifics of like essentially condemning, because at that point she thought she was gonna have to condemn something, but like saying like I have to give this, like, or I have to hold this and stuff like that. Yeah. Yeah. She's just like like it's just adding more to the wrong place, wrong time kind of deal.
Yeah. For me, I think I did like the movie. I mean, I know I was kind of like saying stuff before, but I do like the movie, and I don't think it's like horrible or anything. I really, for me, it was a little rough at the beginning. I think the first 2/3 were a little hard for me, because it just felt like cringe comedy at some points. Like when she's getting the bloody nose and stuff, I was like watching like Scott's Tots or something. Like I was just like, I can't, and like all the cringy family dinner, I was just like, this is like bad. Like I can't, not like it's badly written or anything, but I'm like, this is just hard to watch. But then the last third of the movie, like the last 30 or so minutes, when it goes full on just like Sam Rami like camp horror fest, and there's like a demon goat and like people are flying off the walls and stuff, I was like, good. This is what I signed up for. I kind of wish the movie had just been kind of all that. Like Evil Dead 2 is just like all that madness, and it had did none of the weird family drama stuff, like the bank teller. Like I didn't need to see any of that, honestly. But I loved the ending. Like the ending totally saved this movie for me. I thought it was, the last 30 minutes are just so like, there's not a like that. It's incredible. The third act, I was all in just because it was that fun camp horror that I've been wanting, and just it gives you that fake happy ending, and then it fulfills the title of the movie. She gets dragged literally to hell, and I love that kind of like, because I was like, okay, well, the movie's not just going to end on this happy note. There's going to be something. I didn't know what it was going to be. I thought it might be just like, oh, like there's going to be like a little, thing, like there's going to be like, it's going to go to somebody else, and it's going to be like, okay, here we go. But just like bad things are happening. And usually I'm not like a fan of just like, oh, things are getting worse and worse. But like in this, it's like done in such kind of like a comical, over the top way, where it is playing into that like horror element. I did enjoy like that last part where it's like, oh yeah, she's dead, we defeated her. It's like, oh no, she's just the demon just got her, and now we're kind of screwed, and like I'm gonna be your accomplice here in like condemning some poor soul. And you're on her side and you just feel for her, but you're still kind of like, yeah, that sucks, that just happened to you, but it was so cool that I kind of don't even care.
Yeah, totally. I mean, I'm glad you dug it, because like I will say it's just typical Sam Raimi kind of like affair, I guess. I just dug the whole movie. I think it's like one of the best scripts I've like seen, just because like just there isn't really anything like kind of missing there. Like everything just kind of fits in its manner. Like, yeah, you have to have the like, kind of the boring loan officer stuff. And again, this movie came out in 2009, where I feel like the mid to late 2000s was this weird era of Hollywood being like, let's produce horror, but let's just be PG-13. Like, let's not get R-rated movies.
I was just about to say, like, Skeleton Key is kind of like, the Skeleton Key is kind of like a similar vein of this, I don't know if you've seen the Skeleton Key, but it's kind of like,
I don't think so.
Yeah, it's like just that similar vein of it's not as good, but of that twist. There's like that twist at the end. Like you think there's hope, but then it's twist. But yeah, like a PG-13 where it's like not completely dark, but it's kind of dark. Yeah.
Mhm.
Hmm.
And it's kind of refreshing. Like, I mean, don't get me wrong, I love gore. I'm a gore hound, but it was kind of refreshing to see a scary movie where, like, especially at the time, because me and my friends were really, really big into horror. Like high school friends and stuff. So we were like, let's watch every horror movie we can, and we'd go see like the PG-13 ones, where it was like The Grudge or something like that, and it was like always like haunted or like aliens, and you know, they always relied heavily on jump scares. Where this one kind of just didn't give a fuck about the jump scares. It's like you're gonna deal with them, and you're gonna like
Mhm.
it, and you're gonna get grossed the fuck out. So like, I love that Sam Raimi kind of took the advantage of like, okay, I'm pretty sure like the studio was like nothing gory, nothing Evil Dead 2, nothing Evil Dead 1. Can't go that route. And he's like, all right, well, let me make it fucking disgusting. Where it like pushes that PG-13 rating, where you're just like, it's not gore, it's fucking gross, but it's not gore. And I feel like out of the whole PG-13 kind of horror era, it's definitely like top tier. Like it defeats all of them. Also in the horror comedy aspect as well, because for me, I had a blast when I saw it in theaters. I was like scared out of my mind because the scene where she's at home alone, it's broad daylight, the shadows and everything's shaking, and like the demon is just like that, like hitting everything. I was like, oh my fucking god, this is so fun! Like it felt like I was at like a haunted like Halloween Haunt or something, or like
Hmm.
Universal Studios Halloween Horror Nights. They're just like, oh my god, like I'm scared, but this is so fun. And that's also disgusting, but it's great.
No.
Like I felt like that's what I really dug about the movie. Like it's a strong script and gross out, and also it's very Army of Darkness with like you guys said, like there's the anvil, and then she gets like fucking thrown through a closet. She gets hit. She gets thrown, like hits her countertop, and then knocks herself out or something. And
The
like
beginning, the teeth. She
the,
gets launched into the dashboard and then onto her teeth.
oh
Her
my
teeth
god,
pop.
yeah, like all
Yeah.
that stuff is very Sam Raimi. Like
That's
another
all the
thing
stuff that
too.
I loved, like whenever
Mhm.
that would come up, I was like, okay, yes, give me more of this. And then when it's amped up so much at the end, then I was like, okay, this is what I came for. This is what I am watching this movie for, is all that, just like, it's because it felt like Sam Raimi, he didn't get to do any of that when he made his Spider-Man trilogy, and he just made this directly after that. And he was like, okay, here we go. I've been waiting to do this for like a decade or whatever. It's back. We're doing it all now.
He did kind of do it in Spider-Man 2, and the
There was a little bit
scene,
like jump scare with like the claws and stuff.
the claws, like the scene where Doc Ock is in the hospital and the surgeons are trying to take off the claw, the tentacles.
Hmm.
It's very Evil Dead, where it's like it's the perspective of the claws, and like they're going when it's first person, and like they're like going all over the place and all that stuff. Like that was very Sam Raimi, but you could tell
Hmm.
he was like, I can only do a little just a little tidbit, just a bit, but he's like, I got to get my thing going. And I love that in this one he got to do it a little bit as well.
I wonder what we're gonna see in
Uh,
Multiverse of
Multiverse of Madness.
Madness.
Yeah,
There
that'd be
could
interesting.
be. I wouldn't be surprised if there was kind of like that weird gore, especially
Hmm.
if they're going through. I mean, like the first Doctor Strange had that weird ass like scene with all the hands, the dimension with all the hands coming up. That
oh, that
felt
was
very
great.
Mm.
Raimi-ish, like with you kind of thing,
Yeah.
you know. But yeah.
Um, Easter egg for everybody out there listening. The Oldsmobile is in the movie. The Oldsmobile from Evil Dead.
Nice.
Ash's car, Ashley J. Williams' car, is in the movie. It's the Gypsy's car, and it also
Oh.
appears in the Spider-Man movies as well. Uncle
Mm.
Ben drives the car.
Huh.
Mm.
So that's kind of his little. You know how like directors have their little flair kind of thing, like they hide something in the back. Like Hitchcock would cameo in all his movies.
Mhm.
Sam Raimi just puts his car in shots, which I was like, that's
Yeah.
cool, man. It's really cool to see the old, like it also makes it feel like maybe this movie kind of exists in the Evil Dead realm in a weird way.
It
Yeah.
could. It honestly could. I
Yeah.
feel like.
Yeah. There's one thing that she was an extra, and I thought that, oh, is she gonna be come out as a like a supporting character and stuff? But Octavia Spencer is like one of the extras in like one of the bank employees. I don't Octavia Spencer from The Help and a bunch of different, like, she's now
Re-
she won
Really?
an Oscar. Yeah, she's just randomly there. I'm like, oh, is she gonna like have a cameo here and something? This was before like she got big, because yeah, it's like 2009.
Mm.
So yeah, yeah.
Octavia Spencer. Who? Oh, actually, let me look it up in the
From
meantime.
The Help, not the main maid from The Help, but the other one, her friend, Ma. That speaking of horror movies,
Oh, yeah,
Ma.
yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
There you
yeah.
go, Ma. Yeah, that's right. Oh, that's cool. What scene was she in? I didn't even see
I
her.
think it was either when the old woman gets kicked out, or it was the nosebleed scene. She's one of the bank
Oh,
employees. Yeah.
okay. I,
Hmm.
I I'm not gonna lie. It was kind of hard to pay attention to the extras because just the blood squirting out, and I was just like,
Yeah.
ah, look at that. Ugh. And
Ugh.
it's just like you kind of distracted
Yeah.
a little bit in
Yeah.
that scene.
So one thing I wanted to bring up is, and we kind of touched on it for a second, was all the like stuff with like mouths and eating and stuff. Because one of the few things I knew
Yeah.
about this movie going in was that people think it's like a metaphor for eating disorders and like bulimia and stuff, because it has her being like she's, because she was like, when she was like she was a lot heavier, and so, like, she lost all that weight, and it's like people like have all this stuff about throwing up, and people are like, and like all the trauma around like the old lady is all about like eating and stuff, like, and her like eating her, and then like her vomiting on her and stuff like that. So people think like this is kind of like a metaphor for like eating disorders, and that was one of the few things I know. I don't know if you guys had ever heard that theory before.
I've never heard that theory, but that's kind of cool though. I think that's kind of interesting. I kind of always liked like movies having like that double meaning. Where
Hmm.
for me, this one it was just like I always thought of it as like wrong place, wrong time.
Hmm.
Just kind of like I get like I said earlier in the whole like thing about like the Mexican thing, spiritualism, where I was just like, don't
Mm,
fuck around with things you're not supposed to, spiritual wise.
yeah. I don't think the whole movie was about an eating disorder, but I think that that might have been like the tactic that of the demon for that reason. I would see that, like, especially like,
So you think like the demon was like, she had an eating disorder and the demon was playing on that?
I think she had
Totally.
yeah, like essentially she was scared of getting fat again. I don't know if she
Hmm.
had bulimia or anything like that, but like especially at the beginning you see her passing by like a bakery,
Yeah, she looks at the
and
food, like she's like kind of
she looks
stops and stares at the food, and
and then says no, yeah, kind of
yeah.
thing. So I could see that essentially like the demon kind of like used that as like in a twisted way, forcing all these different random things like into her mouth. If there was a disorder, it would probably be bulimia, especially with the hand going inside her mouth.
Hmm.
I would see that, but yeah, but definitely, like, I now looking at that could definitely be a reason why there was so much of it, and why that was like the go-to thing for the demon, not for her.
Because I noticed a lot of it, because I knew that theory going in, so I like every time that would come up, I'm like, there it is again.
No, yeah, it happened almost like at every interaction with her,
Mhm.
you
And
know.
like the stuff about like the food turning into like having like the worms and stuff like that, and her like being like, "Oh, I can't eat this like food," and it's like cake and stuff like that, and just all that stuff was just very, very interesting. I thought.
Mm.
That is pretty interesting, and I could totally see that being a thing because when I was hilariously enough, when this movie came out, I was dieting really, really fucking hard. I was really overweight, and I'm back at it again. So don't worry about it. That's how I look back then, anyways. And I was on a very, very strict like low carb diet, and oh man, I've been in that position where you pass by like the low carb diet for anybody knows. It's essentially just you can only eat like chicken, meat, fish, vegetables. That's it. No bread, no chips, no soda, nothing. Like just water, protein, and green. That's it. Um, and it's fucking hard, man. It's rough. It's really tough. it's really like messes with your mental frame a lot, like because you go out with friends and yeah, at first it doesn't sound bad because you're like, oh, I can eat chicken and vegetables. That's not bad, but you crave bread. Like for me, I craved bread. Like in the movie, she was craving like sweets, which is a big thing. Everybody's like, oh, I want sweets. They're just fucking loaded up with carbs, especially with desserts and all that stuff. But for me, I was like, dude, I want bread. Like there was times where I would I would get pieces of bread, I would chew on them, and then I'd spit them out because I just wanted that, like, I just needed it real fast, like that quick, like, kind of thing.
Mhm.
And so I could totally see that. I could totally see that kind of being a thing because I think the irony of it is that, like, you're trying to stay away from that. And then, especially after I got off the diet, I started dating somebody and I kind of started getting a little loosened up because she's like, come on, like, let's go have dinner. Let's not worry about a diet kind of thing. You still have that in the back of your mind. You still have that kind of sense of like, oh my God, look, there's this gorgeous, like, I love pumpkin spice. So it's like, look at this pumpkin spice cake. And I'm just like, I don't know. Should I eat it though? Like, I don't know. And you're kind of thinking about it. And I think the biggest irony with this movie is that she's like staying away from food. She's like, I don't want to eat ice cream or I don't want to eat desserts or anything. And then it's like everything just flies into her mouth, fucking maggots, like embalming fluid, mud, just everything under the sun that's just fucking disgusting. And I feel like there's some kind of like funny irony in it where she's like trying to stay away from food and the nastiest shit that nobody would ever want to eat.
Yeah.
Just fucking diving right in. So I think that's a, you know what? I like that theory. I'm not gonna lie. I really dig it. I think that's pretty interesting, especially from someone who I can kind of relate to her being like, yeah, I lost a lot of weight. Now I'm back. I don't give a shit. But but yeah. Anyways, sorry. Go ahead.
No, I mean I get it though, because like you guys know that I lost a lot of weight the past like year or two, because then the big part of that was like staying away from sweets. So I get that where I'll see sweets and I'm like, oh man, I just want to eat a bunch of Oreos right now. But it's like, you know what? Everything in moderation.
Very true. I really believe in that now. Like, I mean, especially that for me, hilariously enough, I didn't care for treats. Like, I really wasn't like a treats kind of guy. For me, I was just like, I love carbs, like pasta and bread. So that was the hard part for me. Like, because I love burgers. I just love junk food. And so for burgers, it's like, well, you can have a low carb burger. It's just lettuce and meat and cheese. And I'm like, but it's the bread, baby. It's the bread. I need those carbs. I hope nobody's ever had to deal with that. Like that shit sucks. And whoever's like out there fighting.
I've had those those burgers where it's just like lettuce on the protein style or whatever they call it. I'm like, no, give me that bread. I get it, man.
There's a plethora of like in and out like double doubles protein style where I'm just like, this is good, but it's not the best. It's just, oh, it's such a tease. But anyway, sorry. This movie has a lot of themes, a lot of like shit that's bringing it up to me. Especially me, like, oh yeah, I went through this. I got possessed. I had nightmares. I had this. Like I had a diet.
I do think it's a good movie. I think it's a good movie though, and I know I was like, I don't want to come off like being like, I'm like, oh, like this is like not PC or whatever, like whatever. Like it's a horror movie, and I get that. So yeah, definitely just going because it doesn't take it so seriously. So I don't think anybody should take the movie too seriously. Going with like this movie might offend some people for some reasons, but like it is like a lot of fun.
Yeah, no, I definitely recommend it. I mean, if you're definitely looking for a Raimi style of horror movie, this is, him, and yeah, definitely that classic B-level horror movie, kind of thing.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, no, but I mean, I love I love your guys' input, especially the theories and like kind of like what Ariel's saying, like, just some people, races and stuff like that are like, they have their things, and I don't think like in any way like how you were saying, Derek, that they're being PC or anything. It just, I completely understand, and it's just how like we all look back at old movies, and we just kind of go, hey, yeah, you know what? Back then, they were able to do stuff like that. Like, wasn't there that like Disney movie where it was like a documentary where they essentially just killed a bunch of animals? Like it was
Milo
Watershed
Notice?
Down?
Like, they like jumped off. Like they didn't kill them, but there was essentially like they were doing a documentary. This was like the 60s or 70s or something.
Well, lemmings
It was
drop
the
off
lemmings?
cliffs.
Yeah, they
Are
dropped
you
off.
talking about
Lemmings
Milo
are the-
Notice?
Oh, I don't know. I just know that there's
No,
like
Milo Notice is a movie. It's not a documentary.
Yeah, but they
It's a
did
documentary.
kill some cats and stuff like that shooting that movie.
Oh.
Well, even
It's
that
pretty
as well,
fucked up.
like, in that part, Twilight Zone the movie, there's a whole fucking scene where the helicopter kind of kills one of the stars and a couple of kids, which that's a whole other fucking thing. Go on YouTube and watch the documentary about that. But like Hollywood does, it is, whenever certain movies come out and they have those kind of like scenes or stereotypes or anything like that, it is of its time where you have to realize that you're like, I totally get your point of view, Derek, and I totally get Ariel's point of view as well.
I didn't have a point.
Oh, no.
I don't want to be
No.
tied to this.
No. I'm not saying that. I'm not saying that. I'm just
Was it
saying
area you love Gone with the Wind?
No,
I'm just
I never watched Gone with the Wind.
Gone with the Wind, that's a racist movie and it's boring, so
I've never seen it, and I'm glad I've never seen it. It just sounds
yeah.
mad. But no,
I've
I'm
always
not-
been iffy about going on Splash
Don't
Mountain
watch Blonde.
and be no, but I'm saying like that's the kind of
Oh,
person
yeah.
I am. I've always been iffy about like going on Splash Mountain and like I know this is like rabbits and stuff like that, but I also know where this comes from.
It's good. That's
So,
why
yeah.
they're updating it though, so that's good.
Yeah,
It's
I
not
know. I
based
know.
on a racist cartoon anymore.
Yeah.
No, Ariel, I'm not trying to say like no. I was trying to say I get everybody's thing, and I'm trying to be like
Yeah.
devil's advocate, pun intended, for everybody kind of thing. But no, I'm just saying like it's some things are just part of its time, and
I think I just said shifty, and that was the thing that I said, which
Still though, hey, careful.
No, it just I've seen what are they Romanis dude just, like a shifty thing, and that the shifty thing is just getting into a Disneyland pool without being a guest there. That's the shiftiness that I'm talking about.
It's like a magician, like somebody who kind of who's really
yes,
good,
anybody could be doing that.
Like a shifty magician, where
Yeah, I don't
they
think you
know
should
what they can
point
do.
out that like, oh, they were this people.
Well, yeah. I mean, anybody could do it. I guess it is part of it was in the moment. Yeah, it was a little bit of stereotyping of them. I could see. Yeah. So thank you for this this intervention of my just kind of thinking as a I stepped into a stereotype as a 8-year-old kid, seeing a some gypsy teenager.
Well, I think it's because of movies like this that those stereotypes perpetuate. That's why I think I had to point it out and kind of, at least be aware of it. Like.
Yeah, no, it's like I kind of always think of it as like Scream, where at the end of the movie they're just like, yeah, you've seen way too many fucking horror movies, and they're like, movies don't make psycho killers. Movies make psycho killers more creative, and I'm like, yes. Movies don't make people like bad or anything like that. It's just when things like that get perpetrated, people think of shit like that, where you just go, yeah, like that's what you think because it was on screen and that's what they're perpetrating. But it's not. I'm not saying the fact that like it makes people go out of their way to be like horrible people or anything, or be racist or serial killers, anything like that. It's just it's part of its time. Like there's probably a movie that everybody loves. Like what is it? Isn't it like The Sound of Music or something? It's like super racist as well.
No, it's Gone with the Wind. Maybe Sound with the Music is too, but yeah, like
Sound of Music about like Nazis or some shit.
Well, Sound of Music is about Nazis, which you should always be racist about to Nazis, I guess you could say.
Yeah, well, okay. Well, fuck Nazis. I've never seen it, so I wouldn't know. I was like, I know there's Nazis in it or something like that. Yeah. Well, fuck Nazis. Be Indiana Jones, punch a Nazi if you ever seen it.
Yes.
Kind of thing. But, yeah, punch a racist, whatever. Be like Indy.
But I think that what who's doing it right is like at the beginning, for example, of all the Warner Brothers movies, they're like having a little thing that says they have like somebody do kind of an introduction, be like, hey,
Mhm.
these are what's portrayed in this movie. It's kind of portrays, black slaves as being kind of like happy and obedient and all this stuff, and that's kind of not cool. And they have like a little intro. They're not like, we're gonna erase this movie, which is what a lot of people will tell you. Oh, they're erasing, Gone with the Wind. No, they're just being like, hey, this exists and we should talk about it. And like, we're gonna put like, they'll have like a professor like African American studies or something, or whatever might pertain to at the beginning of the film. Unlike Disney, who is kind of like trying to just like erase a lot of their past and be like, don't worry, we're never actually racist. I don't really agree with that at all, in fact. So I think, yeah, that conversations like this and the ones that get played before Gone with the Wind and stuff like that are important to kind of just be like, yeah, like this is the way things are portrayed in media, and we need to kind of discuss them sometimes, I think. And I wasn't planning to get all this deep into it at all, but it just kind of happens.
I wasn't planning on like
Yeah.
getting jumped on for saying the woman
we're
was
not jumping-
shifty.
we're not jumping on you. I'm not jumping on you at all, Ariel. I'm not. I promise.
I
I wasn't. I was just trying to, like I
I
said,
know
devil's
you're.
advocate.
No, I'm sorry. I'm not trying to jump on you or anybody else. Like,
I
No,
think,
yeah.
I was just said she's a shifty gypsy woman. Because that's what the movie portrayed.
yeah.
I'm not saying it was right.
No, I know. But yeah, I don't know. Anything else on the movie, guys?
Anything deeper, because we've gone through, eating disorders, stereotypes, not fucking with spiritual shit, gross out humor. Damn, so this movie is very underrated apparently, because it
Yeah.
sparks a lot of conversation.
I thought it was a pretty simple movie, but yeah, we got it. We got into some deep stuff.
Like I said, the script is fucking amazing.
It's a good script.
It's a great
You can
script.
tell everybody who involved in this was having fun. And one of the reasons I think it does have kind of an underrated reputation is because I remember when I saw the marketing for this movie, they did not play into like the comedy at all. It just looked like a bad horror movie. Like the trailers made it look just like a cheesy horror movie that didn't look good. Like I specifically remember watching, there's a show I watched called PTI, where it's like a sports show, and then like one of the sponsors for the show was like Drag Me to Hell, and like the commercial for Drag Me to Hell came on, and then like it came back on, and the guy who was hosting PTI was just like, yeah, that looks good, like really sarcastically, because the trailer looked awful, to be honest, because it didn't have any of that like fun
It was that era of like bad 2000 trailers.
Yeah. And like, and I think that they didn't think that comedy horror would sell. They just wanted to sell it as just kind of like a cheap scare type movie. So I think that it doesn't really get the respect that it deserves as kind of this horror comedy classic.
No, yeah, definitely. Like you guys hit the nail on the head. It's just, it was the 2000s. I feel like the 2000s just kind of was like, kind of just said fuck horror, kind of in a way. Like horror was kind of more of like this kind of like, how can we market it and make money? Like I feel like after like the success of like Freddy versus Jason, but also because of Freddy versus Jason, they're like, nobody wants to see slashers anymore. It was a cool crossover. They're like, now we got to do like ghost stories and adapt things from Japan and just kind of like just make everything PG-13 so we can make as much profits as we can, kind of thing. And there was like a handful of like horror films that came out at the time, like Drag Me to Hell, Devil's Rejects, pretty much, I like the Grudge movies. I thought they were fine. But you know what though, the 2000s, I still feel like it was a very much a decade where they were just trying to profit as much as they could on horror films. Like it wasn't until the late 2000s with Paranormal Activity where like horror was kind of finally getting back into its kind of thing, because like as much as people hate the series, it did kind of open up a lot of avenues where people were just respecting horror again, where they're just like, Paranormal Activity just blew the fucking roof off the theaters, and people were loving it, But sadly, yeah, the 2000s was like, what can we adapt? What can we remake? What can we make a sequel out of? Like, Halloween Resurrection, another fucking Scream movie, like all these things that they're like, what can we do to just make money? Texas Chainsaw Massacre, Hills Have Eyes, like that was the era of like, let's remake everything.
And that
And
might be
that's
why I didn't like horror movies for so long. Because I feel like the '90s were just kind of like not great slashers. Like you're getting into like the 4, 5, and 6s of a lot of slasher movies, and then the like 2000s are like what you're saying is just kind of all these like these real knockoff slash just cheap versions of movies that are popular in Japan or sequels or whatever. And I think that's why it took me a while to come around to horror films, is because it wasn't a great era for them when I was kind of growing up. I'm
no,
really
yeah,
glad we live in this era now with like the A24s and the the neon and all this stuff.
no, yeah, same here. Like I'm loving it. I'm so super happy about it. Like I love, like even if nowadays like they're trying to remake some stuff, but they're like they want to give them love. Like they're like we want to give appreciation, just like the Halloween 2018 and like Candyman just came out this weekend when we were recording this, and it's getting like rave reviews, and I really want to go watch it as well. And then, like I said earlier, we have Hereditary, we have Hush, we have Midsummer, we have all these films where they're like people are talking about them, people are loving them. There's like a whole cult thing. We have Shudder on Shudder's like its whole like horror streaming service. So yeah, I really love that like this decade or the previous decade, the 2010s, just kind of started going, hey man, we got to give a little more love to horror again, because like the 90s had some good stuff, but it was kind of just like you said, it was just kind of following up whatever 80s slashers were coming out, maybe just trying to make another sequel, just trying to find its way. Yeah, we had Scream, which was an absolute banger, the Scream trilogy, and Wes Craven's New Nightmare, and all these like horror movies that were kind of like changing the genre up.
Because I think those are good because they're commentaries on the horror movies of the time.
No, exactly. And and that's the beauty of those. But then at the 2000s, like they just came to a point where they're like, well, they're remaking this, and let's remake this. Like it's hilarious enough that like studios had the balls to be like, let's remake Dawn of the Dead, let's remake The Ring, let's remake this. And I'm like, that's impressive, but why didn't you not give a shit about it? Kind of thing.
Yeah.
But that's a whole other conversation for another day.
Yeah, because
But
this movie is made with like love, and you can tell that they care about this movie. Where a lot of this movies in the genre at the time were just kind of made to make a cheap buck. I feel like.
exactly. Yeah. Any last words? Any last stuff you guys want to say?
I think yeah, I got it all. I think I don't know if I can recommend this movie to everybody. It was like I said, parts of it were hard to watch for me. But if you do kind of like that zany Sam Raimi style, go for it. If not, maybe stay away from it.
Yeah, definitely. I would recommend it and give it a try. And like, it's not as scary as you think it is. Like, I thought it was gonna be more scarier, but it was definitely for me like not. It was good for me for not being like a big horror buff, and I get scared easily. So it was just right for me.
Nice.
I'm definitely gonna recommend it. I think it's a lot of fun. I really dug it when it came out, and then rewatching it again, I had a great time with it. Like I said before, great script. I mean, it is one of those like if you're like I want to watch something from the 2000s, something a little like just funny, like Sam Raimi. You're like I want to prepare for Multiverse of Madness kind of thing. Go give it a watch. I'm a big I love hell stories. I love devil stories. I love Faustian stories. So if you're like, I just need a little bit of like hell in my life, then go ahead and check it out.
Yeah, and watch it. I'd say we're in October right now when this is coming out. So watch it in October. I would say this is a movie you should watch in October. I would recommend it to anybody to throw it on if you're doing some horror movie, because it's not, like Ariel said, it's not too scary. But it is something that like a horror fan can appreciate, but a non-horror fan will be too scared of. So it's a good Halloween watch, for anybody. I will say definitely underrated horror spooky time movie.
Definitely.
Yeah.
I'll put my stamp of approval on it. Certified. Boom. Fucking horror movie to watch during October.
Yep.
And now the plugs. All right, guys, go ahead.
Oh, so for me, I have a podcast that I host called "You've Never Seen?" ? Where I or my guests get introduced to a movie that we've never seen, and we discuss it for the first time after they watch it for the first time.
Yep, and I gotta mention that I've been guessing on a few shows recently. One I was on recently that I had a lot of fun with was called Movie Time Capsule, where I got to kind of pick out a lot of my, what movie I would have was my movie that is like a movie that restores my faith in humanity or whatever. So if you want to check those out, there we always put like links to those and stuff. We've got some. By the time this one comes out, we'll have had our guests. We'll have a couple of guests on the show, so I hope you guys check out their podcasts. Whenever a Marvel thing comes out, we have another podcast called Infinity Stones and Dragon Bones. But yeah, check us out on all that. We have a Discord, so if you guys want to talk to us, give us some suggestions. We're always looking for that. You can hit us up on Discord or on Instagram or Facebook, or just email us at undercastcompany on any of those things. Undercastcompany@gmail.com for our Gmail.
And yeah, well, thank you everybody for listening. We always appreciate it. Go on our Instagram, our Twitter, Facebook, anything. Just jump on there and talk to us. Discord. We'd love to hear from you guys. We've had some people talking on Discord. I unfortunately just started a new job, so I wasn't able to kind of talk to anybody, converse a little bit. But I love seeing you guys talking. It's so great. It always kind of makes me really happy to see that. So please keep at it, man. We love it when I hear more of you guys. I think someone on Instagram, please forgive me. I will give you a shout out on the next one. Or maybe before this one comes out. Give you a shout out. We had a little conversation about this movie that he was talking about. It was really pushing, that was underrated, and I can't remember it for the life
The Beast. It was The Beast.
The Beast.
Yeah.
Uh-huh. And thank you so much for shout out. I promise I will get it. I got logged out of it, and now I got to get back into it and figure all that stuff out.
Nick. It was Nick. Thank you, Nick.
Thank you so much, Nick. Really appreciate it. I was at work when I was talking to you, and I feel so bad that I wasn't able to talk a little bit more about it. I was really interested in it. I was looking it up as well. But yeah, no, thank you so much. That's the stuff we love. Hopefully after the whole Instagram stuff gets fixed and everything, we'll be able to talk to you guys a little more. But please jump into the Discord. The Discord's a really great, really, really great avenue to talk to us. We'll have it on our phone. Hopefully we're not gonna have any issues with it. But yeah. Excuse me. We definitely love hearing from you guys. It's one of the biggest things, especially for me. I love it. I love knowing that there's people out there listening, and that there's people invested as much as we are to film, which is one of our big things. And do you guys want to do? I'm pretty sure we're gonna do it, but it'll probably even come out before this shows up. Maybe a what if, Marvel's What If for Infinity Stones and Dragon Bones.
Yeah, we're gonna be doing a what if, and Shang-Chi is gonna probably be our next episode for Infinity Stones and Dragon Bones.
Yeah, for sure.
So if you're a time traveler and you went to the future and heard this first, just a heads up, it will come out in the past. And go ahead and listen to it when it comes out in the past, because you already heard this.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, all right, guys. Well, thank you everybody so much for listening again. Much love, much appreciation, everybody. And we are the Undercast Company.
See you in another life.
Bye. Thanks for being amazing.
Take it easy, everybody. Happy Halloween.